All right, class, we're going to continue our understanding of unit rate, but now we're going to apply it to some real world problems. So let's review quickly what unit rate is. Unit rate is a ratio with a denominator of 1. So we're trying to figure out how much per unit. So if we have 30 miles per gallon, 30 over 1, $25 per hour. We can think about these unit rates per one. We always want to figure out per one. So if I wrote these two rates in a table, we could have 31, so our input output, or we could have 25 per one. So we're going to be talking about how we can put these in equivalency tables like we were talking about before, and going ahead and trying some practice problems. So the way we want to do these problems is set up a table and then ask yourself, what are we comparing? What are we comparing here? So in this first problem, it says 42 mistakes on 3 tests. So what are we comparing? Well, the two topics that I see here is mistakes and test. We're comparing those two things. So for our input mistakes, right now we have 42 mistakes on 3 tests. And so we want to figure out the unit rate. How much mistakes are we making on one test? And so to figure out how to get this to 1, we're going to need to divide by 3. And if I divide by 3 on one side, I have to do it on the other side to keep the equivalency. And 42 divided by 3 is, let's get our calculator. Now we can use calculators. So we're done with unit 1. You can bring out your calculator. We have 42 divided by 3, and I get 14. So our answer here for this unit rate is we have 14 mistakes per test. All right, let's go on to the next one. $160 for 5 hours of work. All right, what are we comparing here? It looks like we're comparing money and hours of work. So we have our input, the amount of money, and then we're comparing our hours of work. And so as of right now, we know we're going to make $160 for 5 hours of work. But we want to know, if we're looking at unit rate, how much will I make for 1 hour? So I want to turn this 5 into a 1. And so we have to, in order to get 5 to 1, we got to divide by 5. And whatever I do to this hours, I need to do to the money to keep my equivalency. Divide by 5. Let's get that calculator back. 160 divided by 5. And I get 32. So as we know, we have $32 per hour of work. All right. So now, since we've reviewed how we can find the unit rate based on looking at a table, and as you can see, I did my table this way, a T-chart, and I also did it this way. It depends on which way you're more comfortable with. You can write it out whichever way is best for you. Just make sure you're comparing your two values. In this case, we have mistakes and tests, and on this one, we have hours and the amount of money we're making. So let's try some application problems now. So we're going to do 2 problems. All right. Kim earned $420 for 30 hours of work last week. Already off the bat, we know we're comparing money with hours. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in my table. So we have the amount of money compared to the number of hours. So it says that Kim earned $420 for 30 hours of work. If she earns the same hourly rate next week, how much will she earn for 40 hours of work? All right, so we have the information we need to know. What I'm going to start by doing is finding out how much does Kim make per hour. So we're going to find the unit rate. So I want to know how much does Kim make per hour. So I'm going to divide by 30 to get 1. And if I divide by 30 there, I need to also do it at the top. Divide by 30. Let me get my handy dandy calculator. So we have 420 divided by 30, and I get 14. So as of right now, we know that Kim earns $14 per hour. But that's not what the question is asking. The question is asking if she earns the same $14 per hour, the same hourly rate, next week, how much will she earn for 40 hours of work? So now, since I have my unit rate, I can use that to figure out how much she will earn in 40 hours. And so I'm going to take from the 1 and I'm going to go on and times it by 40. And now I have 40 hours. So if I multiply the 1 by 40, I need to also multiply my money, my $14 by 40. And so let's take our calculator again. 14 times 40, and I get 560. So we've learned that she makes $14 per hour, but she's going to make $560 in 40 hours. All right, and we have our answer. And we found that by finding our unit rate first. All right, let's go ahead and try the next problem. So Ben traveled 18,000 miles over 3 days. Got my units, miles, days. So I'm going to go ahead and write that in my table. Miles, days. And it says that Ben traveled 1,800 miles in 3 days. So if he continues to travel at the same rate, how many miles will he have traveled after 8.5 days? All right, let's make it easy on ourselves. Let's go ahead and find the amount of miles he went per day. So I'm going to turn this into a 1, and I can do that by dividing by 3. And then I'm going to do the same thing for 1,800. If I divide this by 3, I got to do the same here. And so let's get our calculator. 1,800 divided by 3, I get 600. So now, if we're looking at how many miles he went for 3 days, now we know how many miles he did in 1 day by dividing by 3. And so Ben travels 600 miles per day. But now that's not what the question was asking. The question says, if he continues to travel at the same rate, how many miles will he have traveled after 8.5 days, 8.5 days? And so, how are we going to go from 1 to 8.5? Well, I'm just going to multiply by 8.5 because anything times 1 is that number. And whatever I do to the 1, the days, I have to do to the miles to keep my equivalency. So times 8.5. Let me get the calculator again. 600 times 8.5, and I get 5,100. So our answer is He drives 600 miles per day, but he's going to travel 5,100 miles in 8.5 days. All right. So I hope this video was helpful. If you think about these tables like equivalent fractions, this will be even more simple for you. All right. Thank you.